Question 2 now for the same paper. So here we have object-oriented programming that stores pictures as objects. Okay, this would be an interesting question. The program stores the dimensions of the picture, the color of the frame, and the description. Okay, everything is given to us. The constructor takes the description, color, height, and width as parameters and set these as private attributes. Write the code to declare the class and its constructor. Do not write any methods and use attribute declaration if you have Python. Okay, so let's start. So we have class of picture. Then we are supposed to have description, width, height, and frame color. So define the constructor. Then we have description, width, height, frame color. So we'll write private attributes, so double dash, description is equal to DSC, self dot width is equal to WD, self dot height is equal to HD, and then self dot dash dash frame color, spelling must be the same, is equal to FC. Okay, and then we'll stop at this point because they've asked us to not write anything else, and then we have to write the attribute declaration as well. So this is string, this is integer, this is again an integer, and this is a string then. Now we're supposed to write the getter methods for all of these. So define get description, and we have to just return these values one by one. 2, 3, and 4. Here we go. And also they've written GS capital, so we have to make sure that we also write GS capital here. Okay, then they're saying the method set description takes a new parameter and then sets it to that. So we have to just write a simple setter method. This would be define set description. We'll take a parameter, let's call it new description, and then we just set it to the current one. So self dot description becomes the new description. And that's pretty much it. We move on to part D. Now they're saying write the code to declare an array of type picture with 100 elements. Okay, so we'll write this code. We'll go to our main program. Okay, so we have to create 100 elements of this class in an array. So there are supposed to be 4 parameters here. We have string, integer, integer, string. So an ideal in order to initialize, the ideal object would be to set these all to empty. So we'll have an object like this. So picture will have 4 parameters. The first one would be string, so let's keep it empty string. Then integer would be -1, height could be -1, and then frame color could be string again. So this is your initialized object. Now this is just one object. We have to add this 100 times into an array. So let's make that array. The name of the array is given. In fact, no, it's not given. Picture is already the class name. So we can call it anything we want, maybe picture list. And picture list would have these objects. So object for I in range 100. So you don't have to write the object separately. You can even do this here. But again, like always, I advise to not write chaining of code in the same line. It causes confusion. So this is it. And then if we print the picture list, it should print you gibberish, some addresses, because you are trying to print the objects. And objects cannot be printed. Only one attribute at a time can be printed. And in order to print those, we have to use these getter methods. Okay, so I'll get rid of this. Now in the next part, they're saying the text file. In part E, we have to open a text file, which is called pictures.txt, that stores the data for the pictures in this order. For example, okay, so we have to read 4 lines at a time, right? And they're saying you have to define it. So we'll go back before the main function and we'll define it here. So define read data. Okay, now what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to read the program from the text file and store it in picture. The main program and the function will need to access the array data. So the function read data will work as follows. You have to open the file, read the data, create an object, write the object, raise an exception, and count the number of pictures in the file, in the array. Okay, so first of all, let's manually inspect the file. So we have a total of 84 lines, and we are supposed to have four sets of each. So 84 divided by 4, I believe that is 12. Yes. So we will have 12 elements in the array. And then for each object, there would be four properties. So this would be 12. So we can also run a loop 12 times, okay? And we can read it in sets of 4, but that is not a good practice because we are hard coding the values, and sometimes they give in the question statement that it should work on any amount of lines in the file. Now what we have to do is we have to read in sets of 4. So in order to do that, we have to use read line 4 times. Okay, so let's plan the program. They're saying that the read data will open the file read. So there's not supposed to be a parameter, I believe. Yep, no parameter is needed. So the file name is pictures.txt. We'll just call it f. File is pictures.txt. So we're going to open the file, and since we are dealing with files, we must always use try and catch, try and accept. So f is equal to open in read mode, and then we must close the file as well. Okay, and they're saying that there should be a count, so count should be set to 0. Okay, now we have to read the file. So for line in F, let's just make sure that we are getting all the lines of file, and just call read file here, read data here. So again, this is just for testing purposes. It's not. All right, so here we have an error. Let's see. Okay, I forgot to have the accept block. Accept, and this should be file processing error or something. And if we run it now, okay, yes, we do have all the files, all the lines. So we must, if we just use a strip function to get rid of the lines, yeah, so we have the file here. Now once we have the file successfully read, now we have to plan the strategy. And the strategy in this case is that we cannot use one line at a time. We have to read 4 lines at a time because we would be making this one object. So like we discussed before, the null object that we created here, this is the format that we are going for. So we'll have 4 values here that we have to collect. Okay, the simplest way to do that would be to use a while true loop. While true loop is basically an infinite loop, and you need to use the break statement to end it. And what we can do here is we can just check the length of the first line. So let's say if I read the first line and the length is 0, it means that it's technically the end of file because there is no more text after this. So we will break the loop. And before we do that, we'll first read the line. So we have to read the line first. So let's call it, okay, what is the data? So we have description, then we have the width, then we have the height, and then we have the frame color. So I'm just using the same names. We can use different names as well. It's totally up to you. Okay, now how do we get the description, or we have to use the read line? So f.readline, this will read one line at a time. And the good thing about readline is if you use it in succession, it will automatically move the pointer. So what will happen is when we do it 4 times, so the pointer from line 1 will automatically move to line 5 after it has read 4 lines. Then if you read 4 lines again, the pointer would automatically move to 9. So every time you read the readline function, the pointer moves by 1 line. So you don't have to do anything else. Okay, first we read the value, and then we should place a check here. If the length of the description is equal to 0, then that means that this is the end of file. So in Python, we do not have any EOF operator available like we do in pseudocode, so we should break it here. So this is one way of checking it. Or you can also use it like this. If not, so not means that the value is returning false. There is nothing here, and you can get rid of this. So both do the same thing. This is more familiar, so we'll use that. Okay, so if there is something in the line, so we read all the lines, we read 4 lines at a time. And once we've done that, we are going to create an object and we are going to add them into the array.
How will we?
Okay, so we have to read, yes, so the read line is in place now. So we have to make sure that we are removing the white spaces. So we have to use the dot strip function on all of them. And first we have to use the read line and then we'll have to apply the strip. Otherwise, it would mean that first you're trying to remove the white spaces and then you're reading the line, which is clearly wrong. Okay, once we've done that, let's look at the file structure. So if you look at the file structure here, the color is all lowercase, right? So black, gold, red. So now this is something that they've not explicitly said in the question, but it would be a good idea if we do it on our own. So the color, whatever this is the fourth value, the fill. So we should convert this to lowercase as well by using the dot lower function. Again, I'm doing the chaining on one line, so you don't have to do this. You can just do it in 2, 3 separate lines by making variables. Okay, we're converting it to lowercase. And secondly, we also have to look for the integer values. So the question said there would be 2 string values and 2 integer values. So these are integer values. We must convert them here timely. So this would be the second value of width. This should be converted to int, and the value of height should also be converted. Okay, so we have all the values ready now. So we have the description, we have the width and height converted into integer, and then we have the, what's this called? Frame color. Okay, now we simply have to make the object and add it into the array. So let's call it current object or something, whatever you want to call it, or maybe current is fine, picture. And we're going to pass these values. So DSC in the same order, width, height, and FC. Also, you can convert them to integer at this point as well, but you've already done that, so you don't need to do it again. So the name of our array is picture list. So I'll write picture list index. We have to initialize the index is equal to current, like this. Or again, we can do it in the same line, totally up to you if you are comfortable with it. And now index should be set to 0, like this. And the whole thing is done. Now one thing more is count plus equal to 1. So we have to increment the count, and then they're saying you have to return the number of pictures in the array. So once we have closed the file and once we are outside of the loop, we will return the value of count. And that's it. We have to increment the index plus equal to 1. So we go to every new index in each iteration. Okay, so this is complete. Okay, now we're supposed to call the read data. So we have already done that. Then they're saying the main program needs to ask the user for some values, and then we have to test the program with it. Maximum width, maximum height, and then we'll run this. Okay. So let's see. Input the requirements. Okay, so we're going to ask the user for the requirements. So again, we have to use the same thing. So description, the user will enter the color, the description, and the width and height. Okay, so description is not needed here. So we have the frame color is equal to input, enter frame color, and we should convert this into lowercase as we saw before because it's done in the file throughout. Then they're asking for the width. Width is equal to int enter width, and height is equal to height. We have to add spaces at the end so our input does not get joined next to it. Then they're saying the program will search the array of pictures and output the picture description, the width and the height of any picture that meets the requirement. Okay, so basically it will go through the file, and let's say if you're looking for the color is maybe black and width is 50 and 45, so it will return us the description of flowers and then any other object that matches the same description. Okay, so we have to do a simple linear search now. So we'll do for index in range of length of picture list. So either we can do this, but that would not be the right thing to do because picture list has 100 objects initially and they're all set to null. And it could be the case that when we read the data, they're not 100 pictures, right? So as per our calculation, there were like 12 pictures here. So this is not the right thing to do here. Instead, we have to use the count variable that we created inside this function. And we have to do, okay. Now there's another issue, that is when we try to use the variable count here, this is set as a local variable inside this module, so it cannot be accessed outside. So what we have to do is we need to bring this outside so it becomes a global variable, and then we have to access it globally by using global count like this, and we have to do the same thing here as well. Now it will be accessible. Okay, so we run the loop, and then we are going to first of all get the current object. So current is equal to picture list index like this. And in fact, let's get out the properties. So we need their fill color. So current FC maybe. I'm just getting the values out. Okay. Now I cannot directly just write frame color because it kills the purpose of having the getter methods. And secondly, they're all set to private. So what I have to do is I have to use the getter method. So get frame color. I'll call it here. What is this doing? So right now I have the array of picture list, which
I have a
has,
question.
okay, so the picture list will have some objects here. Let's say it has the first 4 properties like this. So in round brackets, so this is one object. This would be at index 0. Then the set of next 4 values would be the second object at the next index 1, so on and so forth. So what we're doing right now is we are going to a current object or at index 0, and then we are getting the properties out by using the getter method. So it will give us the frame color, which will be black. And if I use the get width function, so it would get me 45, so on and so forth. I can get rid of this. Also, we don't need this, just like this we saw. We don't need this count. We don't need this count because we are returning the value of count. So since we're returning it here, we can just capture it here inside count, and then we can use that count further. So no need of that. Okay, so we have the current frame color, then the current width is equal to dot get width, and then the current height is equal to current height. Okay, now we just have to make the comparisons. So if the current fill color is equal to the one that the user has inputted here, the frame color. So if that is the case, and we should also check, and they said that these are the maximum width and maximum height, so it shouldn't be greater than that, and the current width is less than, okay, in fact it should be the width that the user inputted is less than or equal to the current width that we have, and then we have, in fact this is confusing, so let's make it width max and height max, avoid any confusion. So enter max height and enter max width, and then we should change this. So if the current width that we are reading from the array is less than or equal to max width, and if the current height is less than or equal to max height. Okay, if all of these conditions are true, only then we are going to get the description out. Okay, if that is the case, then I need to get the description, and they're saying allow the input and height, and then so we are going to get the picture description that is found at the specific index. So then I'm going to just write picture list index dot get description. This will give me the description of the current object, and then I need to print this value like this. And I believe that is pretty much the whole thing. And then they're saying test your program by inputting these search criteria. Okay, so let's try. Black, and we can see they've intentionally given the uppercase value. Okay, so it is outputting something, but we also have to add the height and the width here as well. So let's just print them in the same line. So print get the description here, and then we already have the width and the height. So I'll just use current width, and I'll just use the current height. So this is the advantage of using variables. Okay, then we have to write black 100 100. Okay, it says flowers 4550, people 2020, landscape. Okay, and then we have to take a screenshot of this and try again. And next time we have to input silver, and then we have 25 and 25, and it doesn't show anything. So I believe that should be the correct output. And we should manually check it. So let's go and check just like we'll do in the exam. So let's look for silver in our file. Okay, we have 1, 2, and 3 silvers. Okay, so the maximum width and height is 25. Okay, so this is out of range. Okay, then let's go to the next value of the silver. 40 and 200 are out of range. These two are out of range, and then these two are also out of range. Yep, so silver is not supposed to produce anything at all. So with this, question number 2 is also complete.